Shocking discovery: what lurks in the terrifying tunnel beneath an Alaskan military base? In the chilling heart of Alaska, where the sun barely peaks above frost-bitten mountains, a secret waits, burrowed beneath layers of concrete and ice. Rumors swirl like the bitter winds, suggesting that deep within the bowels of a military base lies a tunnel, a dark, foreboding passage that whispers promises of danger and discovery. Soldiers have gone missing. Equipment has malfunctioned in ways that defy explanation. A soldier named Marcus felt a crawling unease as he stepped near the entrance. The air was thick, almost electric, buzzing as if the tunnel itself were alive. Odd sounds, distant laughter mixed with chilling screeches, echoing off the tunnel walls late at night that he remembered his mother warning him, "Don't go looking where you shouldn't." But those words now felt like a distant memory as a chilling wind pushed him forward. Was it curiosity? Or was it dread? Shadows danced along the narrow entrance, twisting and flickering like fingers beckoning him in. What lay beyond? With each hesitant step, the chill seeped deeper into his bones. Reports spoke of strange symbols carved on the walls, symbols that seemed to pulse subtly in the dark. Was this some military experiment? Or something more sinister that had been buried for years? The scent of mold clung to the air, mingling with something metallic. His heart raced like a runaway train, pounding hard against his chest as he stepped into the tunnel's maw. Then, silence, a heavy, suffocating silence that pulled at him. He strained to hear something, anything, but the world outside felt distant. Shivers coursed through him, tightening as he gripped his flashlight and pushed deeper into the mystery. Was he the first to uncover this secret? Or had others come before him, only to be silenced forever? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Marcus pressed on, the flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. Then, a sharp clang echoed through the tunnel, instantaneously drawing his breath into a tight knot. He froze, eyes darting, pulse thrumming in his ears. Something moved in the shadows ahead. The unmistakable scrape of claws against stone sent him stumbling backward. Heart racing, he wondered, what had just awoken in the dark? And was he prepared for what lay ahead? The echo of his own heartbeat filled Marcus's ears, a relentless drumbeat that heightened the threat lurking in the shadows. He clenched his flashlight tighter, the beam flickering as if sensing his fear. The last thing he wanted to do was turn around and run, but the claws scraping against the stone were getting closer. Dim light flickered across the walls, illuminating more symbols. They twisted and turned, almost alive, as if warning him to retreat. Marcus squinted, trying to make sense of them. One caught his eye, a grotesque figure, limbs distorted and face twisted in agony. What kind of horror had been crafted down here? Why would anyone carve such a thing into the dark? He took another step back, but his foot caught on something, sending him sprawling to the cold floor. The flashlight rolled away, its beam illuminating an expanse of the tunnel ahead, and for a brief moment, all he could do was stare wide-eyed at the unsettling scene. That's when he saw them. Shadows shifting just out of reach, silhouettes bending and twisting, moving purposefully while staying hidden. Whispers crawled through the air, he could almost make out words, yet they danced just beyond his comprehension, threading through the silence like smoke. He pressed his back against the damp stone wall, his breath hitching as it dawned on him, he was not alone. Then came the growl, a low, rumbling sound that rolled through the tunnel, primal, raw. His stomach dropped. The lightweight jacket he wore felt inadequate, almost laughable against the weight of that sound. He scrambled to his feet, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he grabbed for the flashlight. A movement caught his eye. With disbelief, Marcus watched as something slipped into the light. Thick, sinewy limbs glinted with a strange iridescence, and a set of eyes, predatory and gleaming, locked onto him with unsettling hunger. Terror surged, and he swung the flashlight toward it. The moment the beam caught the creature, it recoiled with a shriek that echoed off the walls, vibrating deep in Marcus's chest. It wasn't just an animal, it was something worse, a nightmarish hybrid that felt like it was pulled from the darkest corners of his imagination. "Get out!" he screamed, the words tearing from his throat. He spun on his heel, heart pounding like a jackhammer as he raced back the way he had come, desperation clawing at him. Behind him, the creature was fast. He could hear it, the snapping of claws and the hissing breath that slashed through the silence. He sprinted, the tunnel stretching endlessly before him. His pulse thundered in his ears as he pushed himself harder, faster. He could feel the air grow thick and cold with dread, the electric sensation building, wrapping around him like a tightening noose. As he reached the entrance, the darkness behind him was a thick, impenetrable curtain that threatened to swallow him whole. Just as he launched himself into the light, he felt it, a burst of wind, sharp and suffocating, as the creature lunged for him. Marcus barely managed to escape, crashing into the snow beyond the entrance with every ounce of strength he had left. Gasping for breath, he dared to look back. The tunnel loomed ominously, but the creature was nowhere to be seen. Silence enveloped him once more, but this time it felt different. More ominous. The reality hit him: he had escaped this time, but had he truly uncovered the secrets buried beneath? And what about the soldiers who had vanished? With snow falling around him, he realized he might have unleashed something far more dangerous into the world. As he stumbled back toward the base, he couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. That the real nightmare had only just begun. What awaited him when he returned? Would he be believed, or was he destined to become a ghost within the very walls he had escaped? Marcus staggered through the snow, his pulse still racing, his mind reeling with what he had encountered. Each step felt heavy, as if the air itself pressed down on him, thick with the weight of his fear. Soon, the base lights loomed, warm and inviting, but they did nothing to ease the chill that settled in his bones. As he approached the entrance, the familiar sounds of the base filled his ears: voices, laughter, the clatter of footsteps. Yet, it all felt hollow. He had just escaped a nightmare, and their normalcy only deepened the dark gulf that separated him from them. He opened the door, and a rush of warmth hit him, but it felt suffocating. Marcus lurched inside, his heart still thudding violently. He expected the chatter to die down, the laughter to halt. Instead, people glanced at him and returned to their conversations, unaware of the terror he now carried on his back like a cloak, heavy and damp. "Marcus?" A voice broke through the din. It was Captain Roberts, his commanding officer, looking up from a map covered with cryptic notations that seemed insignificant compared to his own burden. "What the hell happened to you?" "Captain, you need to listen to me," he started, his voice shaking. But the noise of the base drowned him out, and the captain merely raised an eyebrow, crossing his arms. "Look, I'm busy here. We've got soldiers missing. Nobody has time for your ghost stories about tunnels." The captain's dismissive tone sent a jolt of frustration through him, igniting something deep inside. "No. I'm not crazy. I saw something down there in the tunnel," he insisted, his voice rising. "The marks on the walls, the creature, they're not just stories. It's something real. It's dangerous." For a moment, a flicker of concern crossed Captain Roberts' face. Then he simply shook his head. "Get yourself cleaned up. We'll talk later." With that, he turned his attention back to the map, shuffling papers before Marcus could respond. Marcus's chest tightened, a lump of despair rising in his throat. He needed to be believed, yet the expressions surrounding him reflected a profound disbelief in his sanity. He turned away, feeling the isolation clawing at him. Alone amidst a crowd, the reality of his situation settled around him. He stumbled towards the barracks, still grappling with the images that haunted him, the growls, the images on the walls, the eyes that bore into him with malicious intent. Night fell rapidly, and Marcus was stuck in an agonizing limbo of dread and urgency. The only sound penetrating the thick walls of the base came from the heavy winter wind howling outside. Everything felt amplified eerie, as if shadows danced around corners just out of eyesight, waiting for the right moment to strike. Unable to settle, he paced his room, every creak of the floorboards echoing like a warning. It was unbearable. He had to go back. But this time, he needed gear. He needed help. Before he knew it, he was at the door, his heart racing with firm resolve. "I'll show them," he whispered vehemently, adrenaline surging through his veins once again. But who? The captain was right, others were missing. Maybe he could use that, leverage their disappearances to make a point. With a plan taking shape, he snuck out, not bothering with protest or debate. He couldn't afford to waste time. The creature may have been seething in the dark, ready to hunt again. As he stepped outside, the cold air bit at his skin, invigorating him. He glanced back at the base, a ghost of his past, then turned towards the looming mountain where that entrance lay hidden in its shadow, waiting. What would he uncover this time? Would what lurked within welcome him, or would he become a victim, just like the soldiers before? Time held its breath as he ventured back. Marcus pushed forward, the crunch of snow underfoot the only sound to break the frozen silence of the night. The moon hung high above, casting an eerie glow across the landscape, illuminating the path before him. He felt both terrified and alive, the thrill of the unknown mingling with the foreboding shadows that loomed around him. As he approached the mountainside, his breath quickened, fogging the air in short bursts. The entrance to the tunnel loomed closer, shrouded in darkness and mystery. Just as he reached for the metal door that had sent shivers down his spine before, doubt crept in. Could he really face whatever was lurking inside? The fear of being consumed by the abyss clutched at him. Surely, he would not only unearth something terrifying, but might even become part of its story. He shook his head, pushing such thoughts away. He wouldn't be a victim. Not this time. This was bigger than him, and the men who had vanished deserved to be honored. He felt a tech pack slung over his shoulder, filled with flashlights, a camera, and extra supplies to keep him alert. With a firm grip, he opened the door, sweat forming against his back despite the cold air. Inside, the darkness swallowed him whole, his heart racing as he fumbled to turn on his flashlight. The beam sliced through the gloom, revealing damp, cold walls crawling with moisture and creeping tendrils of shadow. He moved hesitantly, every footfall echoing like a siren through the hollow space. The markings he had seen before haunted him. He had to find them to show someone that this was real. As he stepped deeper inside, a low growl reverberated from the depths. He froze, suddenly all too aware of his vulnerability. The echoes morphed into whispers, unable to decipher whether they belonged to him or something lurking just out of sight. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, breathing in sharply. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, sending rocks tumbling to the floor. His pulse quickened. Something was there. He directed his flashlight along the walls. Then, he saw them. The symbols. They were more intricate than he remembered, winding together like veins, pulsating with a strange energy. Marcus knelt closer, his fingers tracing the carvings. It was as if they held the stories of everyone who had ventured down this path, trapped in a silent scream. But then, he heard it again. A rumble, followed by a low, guttural sound that clawed at his insides. His heart hammered. It was closer. He turned the beam towards the end of the tunnel, recognizing a faint silhouette. It moved. Panic filled him as he stumbled back, returning to the wall for safety. His breath came fast, rasping in his throat. "Marcus." A voice whispered, dark and dragging. It wasn't human. "Come closer." The hair on the back of his neck stood up as he confusedly grasped for his gear. "I'm not afraid of you," he shouted, desperation spiraling through him. A chilling silence enveloped him, and then a low laugh echoed through the tunnel, resonating against the cold stone. "They didn't believe you. Just like they won't believe me." Adrenaline surged through Marcus as an insatiable hunger clawed at the shadows, deep in the tunnel. He needed to get out now. Turning, he sprinted towards the entrance, his pulse sounding in his ears like the drum of war. But as he reached the door, a weight pressed against it, holding it shut. He screamed, shaking in panic. What had he awakened? As the darkness cloaked around him and whispers of the lost soldiers returned, the walls themselves seemed to close in. "Help me," he cried out desperately, but the laughter only grew louder. In that hellish moment, he knew he wasn't going to leave this place alone. What would it take to escape the nightmarish grip of the tunnel? Would anyone believe the horror that had found him? Marcus's heart raced like a wild drum as he pounded against the door, desperation clawing at him. The darkness erupted with laughter, the cold air wrapping around him like a predator. Stumbling back, he turned the beam of his flashlight in a frantic sweep, searching for anything that might help. The shadows twisted into grotesque shapes, crawling closer. "They'll never know, not unless you tell them." The voice slithered through the air, thick with malice. It wasn't just a whisper, it felt like fingers grazing his skin. "What do you want from me?" Marcus shouted, his voice trembling, fear wrapped tight around his throat. Silence. Then a haunting echo of his own words paraded back to him, mocking him. Suddenly, the pressure on the door lifted. With trembling hands, he pulled it open, spilling moonlight into the tunnel. Outside, the stark beauty of the snow-covered landscape felt like a distant dream, but he couldn't step out just yet. The shadows recoiled, whispering in frustration, forbidden to follow him into the light. Sprinting out, he felt the biting cold air on his face, yet the feeling of safety eluded him. He turned around, flashlight illuminating only inches ahead. The doorway was still gaping, black and sultry, pulsing like a heartbeat. The laughter echoed softly, fading into the night. "Come back," the voice hissed. "You can't escape the truth." Marcus swallowed hard, ice creeping into his veins. He fled, feeling his legs pump beneath him like pistons. His feet thudded against the frozen ground, but no matter how fast he ran, panic gripped him. He had witnessed something unimaginable, and it would haunt him like a ghost that as he reached his vehicle parked near the tree line, reality crashed and he had no proof. No one would believe what waited for him in the darkness. Catching his breath, he glanced back at the tunnel, its entrance ominously whispering, as if it remembered him now that he fished for his camera from the tech pack, his hands shaking. He'd document everything, even if it was just to make the world take notice. If he returned, he would return prepared, armed with the knowledge of what lurked within. He started snapping pictures of the entrance, capturing every detail of the carvings, the dampness, the way shadows seemed to twist around it. But then, a movement caught his eye. From the corner of the tunnel, a figure emerged, eyes glistening like glass in the moonlight. It stepped into the faint glow, and Marcus's breath hitched. A woman. Dressed in military gear, her face smeared with dirt, eyes wide with terror. "Marcus!" she shouted, her voice laced with urgency. "You have to help me. They're not dead. They're still here." His heart stopped. The truth shook him to his core. The soldiers who vanished, she had to be one of them. "What is happening?" he demanded, grappling with disbelief and hope. "Where are they?" "I can't explain here." She gestured toward the depths of the tunnel, panic etched across her features. "You don't understand what you've awakened. You have to come with me. Please." The urgency in her voice cracked the surface of his fear. He took a step towards her, torn between dread and the magnetic pull of a mystery wanting to be uncovered. Then he faltered. The laughter echoed again, the shadows crept closer, hungry and expectant. A choice lay before him, retreat to the safety of the known or plunge back into the abyss for answers. What did I unleash? He thought, sensing the weight of reality crashing around him. "Marcus!" she called again, desperation cutting through the air. "You must choose now." In that chilling moment, guilt and dread collided as he hesitated, teetering between worlds. What would he find if he took that step back into darkness? Would salvation or madness be waiting? Marcus's mind was a whirlwind. The woman in front of him, her eyes pleading, tugged at the remnants of his courage. He could sense the shadows lurking behind him, whispering impatiently, eager to lash out at his indecision. A deep breath steadied the trembling of his hands. "Why should I trust you?" he said, his voice steadying. "What do you know?" "The truth," she shouted, desperation spilling from her. "I was there when they went in. They're alive, Marcus. They need our help. You have to believe me." He felt the cold steel of her gaze pierce through his fear. With a surge of instinct, he hastily pocketed his camera, his heart pounding like war drums. "Okay," he finally replied, stepping closer to her, but still cautious. "Show me." Without a word, she turned and darted toward the tunnel. The wide-mouthed darkness swallowed her immediately, but Marcus followed, instinct kicking in despite the rising dread that wrapped around him like a vice. His flashlight danced erratically against the rough stone walls, highlighting the dampness that clung to the air. "Keep close," she called back, her voice echoing, almost swallowed by the oppressive darkness. "We don't have much time." As they ventured deeper, the atmosphere shifted, the air thickening. Every footfall reverberated like a drum, louder than the last. A stench, bitter and metallic, clawed its way toward him, wrapping around his senses. "What happened to the soldiers?" he whispered harshly, skin prickling. "I can't explain, but they're not as you think." She hesitated, as if weighing the burden of her next words. "They've transformed." The revelation hung between them like a noose, tightening around his throat. "Transformed? Into what? What does that even mean?" "The experiments," she murmured, her voice tremoring. "They were changing them into something we shouldn't have attempted." Panic stole her composure. "You have to understand, this base was hiding things that go against nature." He stumbled, his breath hitching as he absorbed her confession. The soldiers, once men of valor, now monstrous shadows of their former selves. A vision of soldiers' friends, neighbors twisted by the depths of human obsession loomed in his mind. Then she stopped abruptly. Ahead, a faint flickering light emanated from a chamber, wavering like a candle crying for help. The realization struck Marcus like a wave of icy water, they had reached whatever abyss he had disturbed. "Stay close." She pulled him toward the light, urgency radiating from her. As they crossed the threshold, the sight that met them sent a jolting shock through his body. A room lined with equipment, strange and alien, pulsating life, and in the center, human figures sprawled on metal tables. Unfathomable sounds echoed around him, groans that froze the blood in his veins. "What the hell is this?" Marcus gasped, eyes widening. "They're changing, Marcus," her voice shook. "They're in pain." And then he saw it, one figure's face, contorted and trapped in agony, yet unmistakably familiar. "Tom," he breathed, the name barely escaping his lips. Tom had once been a brother in arms, a friend in battle. "Oh God! We have to help them." "No!" she cried, a tremor flooding her voice. "Help them how? It's too late for them. We need to leave now." But Marcus felt the surge of loyalty choking his instincts. "I'm not leaving them," he shouted fiercely, stepping toward his friend, heart racing. "Marcus!" She grabbed his arm. "If we wake them now, there's no telling what will happen." The chamber trembled as an unnatural whirring began. Lights beneath the tables flared, illuminating twisted visages of the fallen. Where were their humanity and dignity? All he could think was that these were men who had choices. He had to save one of them or risk losing everything. In that moment, he had a choice, act or retreat, surrendering to the shadows he knew all too well. Suddenly, the flickering intensified, brighter and more erratic. A scream erupted from the corner, wrapping around him like a noose. And it hit him, this wasn't just a rescue mission. It was a war against the Unspeakable. Marcus. The woman shouted, fear igniting her features. We have to run. Would he turn back or become a part of the nightmare? The air was thick with tension, and as he glanced from the flickering light to her frightened eyes, the weight of the decision pressed hard against him. What awaited him if he stepped forward into the fray? Would the abyss claim him too? The air pulsed with a nerve-wracking hum as Marcus hesitated, caught in the skull-crushing grip of indecision. He could feel the rising heat of the flickering lights pulling him in, luring him to confront the horror he knew awaited. Tom's face twisted, desperate haunted him. The moment stretched, a tense standoff between instinct and camaraderie. Marcus, please. The woman's voice cut through him like a knife. We have to go. Look at them. But could he really turn his back on Tom? The clamor around him morphed into chaotic whispers, the outlines of figures shivered under the blinding light, shifting like restless phantoms. With resolute determination, Marcus took a step closer to the tables. They were our brothers, he murmured, not entirely to her but to himself. They deserve a chance. The lights overhead flickered violently, casting monstrous shadows that danced on the walls, and the echoes of tortured screams seemed to intensify. He could taste the fear that clawed at the back of his throat. We have to find a way to help them. He shouted, desperation coloring his voice. No, no, no. She clutched his arm, her fingers biting into his skin. You don't understand what you're dealing with. If they wake, if they know we're here, they'll come for us. A tremor shot through the ground beneath him, shaking loose pieces of debris from the ceiling, dust swirling like lost souls. The figures on the tables stirred, a grotesque ballet of limbs and tortured faces, each movement echoing with pain. He steeled himself against the suffocating fear. What did they do to you? The question escaped him, reverberating in the room full of regret and despair. As if in answer, Tom's eyes fluttered open. Marcus, help me, came the broken whisper, laden with unbearable sorrow. His heart shattered at the sound of his friend's voice, tinged with anguish. Marcus took another step, mind racing, searching for a way to save him. But the whirring machines hissed ominously, as though warning him back. Marcus. The woman's voice was urgent, filled with a primal instinct for survival. We don't have much time. As if in response, the lights around them dimmed, flickering ominously. The moans crescendoed into a horrifying chorus, and Marcus felt his breath catch. Suddenly, the room seemed to throb with life, a pulsing mass of darkness and terror waiting to consume them both. What is happening? He cried, panic setting in. They're awakening. She screamed, pushing against his chest to pull him back. We have to run now. But it was too late. From the tables, shapes began to rise, grotesque silhouettes twisting into something unrecognizable, something jailer and captive intertwined. Their eyes glinted with a hunger that sent icy spears of dread into Marcus's chest. Every instinct screamed for him to flee, yet his legs felt glued in place, a traitorous loyalty keeping him anchored. The chamber erupted with a cacophony of screams mixed with inhuman howls as the shadows took form, figures of once human soldiers now bent and reshaped by unfathomable experiments. Fear flooded his senses, calculating the odds, stay and face the horrors, or run and leave his friends behind. Help us. Tom croaked, but the plea was swallowed by the chaotic noise. Let us go. She screamed again, pulling him back. Just when Marcus felt he might succumb to the pull of the abyss, he tore his gaze from Tom and spun on his heel, adrenaline rewriting the rules of his loyalty. He sprinted toward the tunnel, wrenching himself free from the weight of the chamber. Come on. He shouted, heart pounding almost painfully against his ribcage. But as they burst into the darkness of the tunnel, the resounding growls behind them echoed louder, sending shivers of terror down his spine. Would they escape? Were the horrors left behind pursuing them into the murky black? Emerging into the light might cost him everything, and yet, he had to know what would happen next. As they raced forward, the ground rumbled beneath them once more, and in the distance, a chilling voice called out, sending dread spiking through Marcus's veins. "Join us, Marcus." The voice was familiar, and its implications shook him to his core. What had he unleashed? What terrifying truth awaited just outside that tunnel? The tunnel stretched endlessly, its walls slick with moisture that glistened like the eyes of the creatures lurking back in the chamber. They ran, the pounding of their hearts sinking with the thundering footsteps behind them. Marcus stole a glance back, dread mounting in his chest as dark shapes flitted at the edges of his vision, growing bolder with every second. "Keep moving," the woman urged, her voice a sharp crack in the oppressive stillness that encased them. He barely recognized her name, a tremor of fear quaking through him as he pushed forward. "Why are they chasing us?" Marcus gasped, his breath coming in ragged bursts. He felt the fear drench him, weighing him down like a heavy shroud. "They're not just soldiers anymore," she replied, her voice edged with panic. "They've become something else. Twisted. They can smell us. Feel our fear." The word settled heavily in Marcus's mind, mixing with the echoes of Tom's anguished plea. What had the military done to them? Snippets of fragmented memories flashed through his mind, the training sessions, the camaraderie shared before this nightmare unfolded. He couldn't fathom how they could be transformed into monsters. Just as the tunnel began to twist and turn, a low growl emanated from the darkness behind, a sound that rattled through his bones. Shadows danced on the walls, elongating and shifting, mimicking their frantic movement. For a moment, he stumbled, fear sending a jolt through him. He could almost feel the breath of the horrors trailing him. They rounded a corner sharply, and when the woman skidded to a halt, he barely managed to stop himself from crashing into her. What he began. "Listen." She raised a hand, her eyes wide and frantic. Silence enveloped them, swallowing the sounds of their escape. For a heartbeat, it felt as if the tunnel held its breath, waiting. Then came the voices, soft whispers that slithered along the walls, brushing against his skin like icy fingers. "Marcus, join us." The familiar tone sent terror spiraling through him. It was Tom again, but twisted and echoing, distorted by something unfathomable. "How are they?" he stammered. "They're connected," the woman interjected, eyes darting around. "They share a consciousness, a tribe forged in darkness." "What do you mean?" "I think they want you to be part of it." Her words hit him hard, each syllable like a hammer against his heart. Part of him rebelled. I'd never, but in that moment, a part of him choked on doubt. What if they were right? What if he could join them, free himself from this madness? The thought was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Behind them, the growls intensified, solidifying Marcus's resolve. "We have to find a way out," he shouted, pushing the doubt aside. Fear coursed through him, but he refused to concede to it. They pressed onward, adrenaline fueling their flight. Every turn felt like a step into the unknown, each moment stretching into eternity. The tunnel began to narrow, squeezing them as if trying to squeeze the very breath from their lungs. What if there's no escape? Thankfully, she whispered this, but the words hung heavily in the air. "Then we fight." The instinct to survive surged within him, sharpening his focus on the light that glimmered ahead, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. But even as they sprinted forward, the growls morphed into a chorus of anguished screams, echoing through the tight confines, melding with the whispers that beckoned Marcus closer to the darkness. "Join us, Marcus." That voice surged once more, a sinister promise laced with a familiarity that tugged at a primal part of him. The light grew stronger, but the weight of impending doom coiled tightly around his chest. As they reached the end of the tunnel, fear clawed at his throat. What lay beyond? Would it lead to safety or deeper into the heart of unspeakable horrors? And as they stepped into the light, a figure loomed in their path, and Marcus felt the ground tremble beneath him. "Welcome back, brother." It was Tom, but not the Tom he had known. What had he become? What dark truth would surface next? Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The figure before him reeked of decay and malice, eyes glinting eerily in the harsh light. Tom stood there, but he was not the same. His expression was vacant, as if a shadow had swallowed the warmth of his humanity. Tom. Marcus managed, voice trembling, each syllable drenched in disbelief. Panic crested within him, stirring the ghosts of their shared past, the laughter, the late nights talking about dreams, and the brotherhood forged under the weight of rigorous training. Brother Tom spoke, voice oddly distorted. You have returned to us. You've finally come home. The woman beside Marcus held her breath, a wariness steeped in disbelief painting her features. This isn't him, she whispered. It can't be. Marcus took a step back, heart racing. What did they do to you? He demanded, each word laced with desperation. You're not like us anymore. Tom laughed, but it was a cold, hollow sound that made Marcus shiver. You can join us, you know. The suffering ends here, with us. We're free from the chains of that weak life you once had. The growls from the tunnel echoed behind them, a reminder that whatever horror had twisted Tom awaited them. The sound made the woman jump, and she glanced at Marcus, anxiety dancing in her eyes. We need to go. She urged, nudging him to move, but he felt like stone, rooted in place as he stared at the shell of his brother. Do you see how much power we've gained? Tom continued, eyes bright and fevered. We are more than flesh and blood. We are the future. A seed of doubt sprouted in Marcus's mind. What if there was truth in Tom's madness? What if this twisted existence offered a way out, a way to become strong enough to fight the horrors of the world? He bit back that thought, fueled by the memory of who Tom used to be. He couldn't lose him like this. Tom, fight it. You have to fight. Marcus begged. Tom stepped closer, the light stark against his features. You think I will fight this? I embrace it. You can too. The woman tugged at Marcus. Please. We need to move. We're out of time. With a last desperate glance at Tom, Marcus tore himself away. I want to join you. He shouted. You're not my brother anymore. The moment hung like a thread in the air, taut and trembling. Tom's expression faltered, anger flashing across his face. Fool! He snarled, and suddenly the shadows surged behind him, monstrous forms emerging, soldiers or creatures, it was hard to tell. Run! Marcus cried, grabbing the woman's arm, dragging her into the cavernous space beyond Tom. They burst into a vast chamber, draped in darkness, the air thick with the stench of decay, a graveyard of twisted remnants, the walls pulsed with movement, shadows creeping and crawling, beckoning them toward the unseen horrors. In the far corner, a flickering light flared. An exit? Or a trap? Which way? She gasped, eyes wide, scanning the terrifying scene. I don't know. But we can't let them get us. He shouted, breathing fast, terror-fueled adrenaline surging through him. The echoes of screams transformed into a chorus of whispers that wove around them, dampening their resolve. No matter what happens here, remember who you are. But just as they turned to flee deeper into the chamber, a clawed hand shot from the shadows, grasping for them. Tom's voice echoed, now laced with a threat. Don't you want to come home? The primal fear took hold of him once more, heart pounding like a drum, as broken pieces of the brother he loved waged war against the darkness threatening to consume him. Whatever it takes. He screamed into the void. His fear propelled him forward. But how far could he run before the past caught up with him, before he had to face what Tom had truly become? What other horrors awaited them in this blood-soaked abyss? As the shadows closed in, Marcus made a vow to himself, he would fight with everything he had. But where would that fight lead him? Marcus and the woman he still hadn't caught her name bolted through the chamber, shadows curling around them like tightening vines. Terror gripped him, urging them forward into the unknown. Every corner felt like a trap, and yet they had no choice but to plunge deeper into the dark labyrinth. With an echoing roar, the shadows of monstrous soldiers surged closer, shapes both familiar and grotesque. Each swift movement made ripples in his memory, fragments of a brotherhood tainted by unspeakable horrors. Which way? She cried, panic edging her voice. I can't over there. He yelled, pointing toward the flickering light that seemed to pulse with its own form of life. It appeared like a distant star in a nightmare, beckoning them both. They dashed toward it, weaving through the labyrinth of despair and dread, the air heavy with the scent of decay and desperation. Marcus's heart raced as they approached the light, hope flaring within him. But hope felt fragile in a place like this. The shadows pressed in, almost taunting him, whispering. Join us no. He shouted, shaking his head, banishing those words from his mind. Then they skidded to a halt as figures loomed ahead. Dark silhouettes with predatory eyes glinted at them from the darkness, standing guard at the light like twisted sentinels. Tom! The woman cried. What have they done to you? Just a step closer to freedom, he replied with an eerie calm, his voice a mockery of the brother Marcus used to know. His twisted features emerged into the light, each flicker highlighting the monstrous change, and all Marcus could feel was an intense sadness that coursed through him like fire. Fight it! Marcus shouted. You need to come back. We can still save you. Tom took a step forward, a dark grin splitting his face. Why would I leave this? Power is intoxicating, Marcus. Join us. You can be one of us. Feel the strength, the thrill of darkness. No. The weight of dread pulled Marcus down. Tom, listen to me. This isn't who you are. But the woman gasped, pulling at his arm. We have to go now. We can't let them catch us. Just as Marcus turned to run, he felt something grab his leg, pulling him down into the shadows. Claws scraped flesh, a primal urge pushing him into the depths of dark reality. Without thinking, he swung his arm down, feeling the fury and desperation course through him, hardening his heart and his resolve. Stay together. He roared, wrenching himself free, grasping for the woman's hand. They both sprang towards the exit, but the darkness seemed to take shape around them, clawing and shrieking at their heels. In the distance, the light flickered more violently, almost alive with a pulse, urging them forward. We're almost there. He shouted, panic clawing at his throat as footsteps thundered behind. But would they ever make it out alive? Would the shadows consume them both like they had so many before? As they plunged into the light, the world erupted in chaos. An explosion echoed behind them, the ground quaking. The tunnel itself seemed to scream against their escape. The walls caved, darkness seeping through in a cascade of terror. They stumbled into an expanse, falling free from the choking grip of the tunnel. Flashes of moonlight illuminated a snowy terrain glistening like the ghost of life, so stark, so cruel compared to the horrors they had just faced. Is this are we out? The woman breathed, breathless and tangled in shock. Not yet, Marcus cautioned, scanning the area. But then he froze. There, standing at the tunnel's mouth, the figure of Tom loomed, a shadowed silhouette. He stretched out his arms as if beckoning, unearthly whispers flitting through the air. Join us, Marcus. The same familiar voice hung heavily with menace. Every instinct screamed for Marcus to run, his heart beat a frantic assault against his chest. He couldn't escape the resolve burning within him. No choice but to fight. Tom! He shouted, but the shadows seemed to absorb the words, amplifying the tension. The woman pulled at his arm. We have to find shelter. We'll come up with a plan. No. Marcus shouted, his eyes burning with determination. I won't leave him. Before the woman could protest, Marcus broke free, moving towards Tom, desperation driving him forward. You're still in there. I can help you. The laughter echoed again, a chilling undertone that made his heart falter. But before Tom could answer, the earth trembled beneath them once more. Run! The woman screamed, pulling him back to safety. As they gathered their senses, the roar of the tunnel collapsing echoed through the night. Breaths heaved with exertion, and fatigue clung to him like an old friend. He steeled himself, but still the desire to go back surged within him. I can't let this happen. I can't just leave him. It's too late for him, she urged desperately. Don't you see? With one last look over his shoulder, he turned away. The last vestiges of Tom's once familiar face faded into the night. He would not become a part of that darkness. This was their escape, a chance at freedom from the terror beneath. Fumbling through the snowy terrain, they dashed away from the tunnel's mouth, fear driving them on, pulse thrumming in their ears, tears spilling from dry eyes. Marcus vowed that he would return, armed with knowledge and hope, intent on putting an end to the nightmare that had swallowed his brother and others whole. But for now, they had escaped that he dared to glance once more at the black mouth of the tunnel, but it was just that a mouth which would always hunger. He heaved a sigh, standing side by side with the woman, uncertainty twisting through him, yet hope flickering forward. What now? We regroup, she said solidly, determination glinting in her eyes. We prepare for what's left behind. Will find others, and will expose this horror. Nodding resolutely, they turned and moved away from the darkness, the snow crunching softly beneath them. A new battle awaited, a shared commitment to bring light to the secrets hidden within the shadows. But Marcus felt the weight of the unspooled connection tugging against him, a promise yet to be fulfilled. Each step away was a step toward speaking the truth, one he understood all too well. Together, we will make this right, he whispered, resolute in his determination. They marched forward together, into the cold, promising dawn that awaited them. It was only the beginning, and as daylight began to seep into the world, the horizon stretching wide and filled with unexpected promise, he knew they couldn't wait another moment. Now was the time to act. So, let us not wait. A promise was forged in darkness, and together they would light the way. But before all that, you need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss any of the next exclusive stories coming right up, trust me. Smash that like button now, it really fuels us to keep bringing you these thrilling tales. And please, flood the comments with your thoughts, reactions, and wild theories about what just happened. Your voice means everything to us. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this conclusion. Let's spread the word. Together, we'll uncover mysteries beyond imagination.